On a blistering summer day in 1940, husband and wife archaeologists Sidney and Georgia Wheeler ducked into a shallow alcove in Nevada's Great Basin. Spirit Cave, they figured, would yield nothing more than bat guano and a few potsherds, until their lanterns flickered across a tightly wrapped bundle of tule mats. Inside lay a man, skin, hair, and moccasins astonishingly intact after 10 millennia. In that instant, the Wheelers sparked a mystery that would upend everything we thought we knew about humanity's first steps onto North American soil. Want to follow the trail? Hit subscribe. The Wheelers worked methodically, loosening centuries of dust with camel hair brushes and noting every scrap of evidence before the desert wind could scatter it. Layer by layer, the grave goods emerged, finely plaited tule mats, stitched so tight they still held a whisper of reed pollen, a blanket pieced from hundreds of rabbit pelts, moccasins lined with willow fiber, heel impressions still visible. Behind the bundle lay other treasures, netting, cordage, a woven sash, each hinting at a craftsmanship unseen elsewhere in the Great Basin record. By dusk, the team, helped by local ranchers drafted for muscle and mule power, had logged 67 artifacts and the fragile remains themselves, swaddled like a pharaoh and carried out under canvas. With radiocarbon dating still a decade away, curators at the Nevada State Museum relied on typology alone. They penciled in an age of 15 to 20 centuries. Respectable but hardly headline material. The mummy was shelved in climate-controlled obscurity, and no one imagined the bundle they boxed away was older than the pyramids. To grasp what the Wheelers had truly stumbled upon, rewind the clock 10,600 years. Nevada was no sun-blasted barrens then, but the shoreline of Lake La Hontan, a glittering inland sea larger than modern Lake Erie. Snowmelt from the Sierra Nevada fed reed-choked marshes where waterfowl clouded the sky and minnows flashed like spilled silver. Families built brush shelters on sandy spits, weaving tule into everything, cradles, fish traps, burial wraps. They gathered cattail pollen for bread, roasted marsh bulbs for starch, and paddled reed canoes after grebes and greylag geese. Bighorn sheep browsed the hills. Pronghorn pranced the sage flats. It was a world of abundance, not austerity, and the Spirit Cave man, wrapped in his rabbit fur shroud, belonged to a culture skilled enough to thrive along that vanishing shore. Half a century later, archaeology had evolved. In the early 1990s, a graduate intern, sifting through long-neglected storage boxes, pulled the Spirit Cave bundle from its shelf and wondered why no one had ever run radiocarbon on it. Accelerated mass spectrometry, AMS, could now date a fleck of textile the weight of a fruit fly, so technicians snipped a single tule fiber and fed it into the graphite ion beam. The printer spat out numbers no one anticipated, 9,400 plus or minus 60 years before present. Once calibrated, the age leapt past 10,600 calendar years. Older than Stonehenge, older than the first bricks of Sumer, older even than Otzi the Iceman by 2 millennia. Overnight, the humble Nevada mummy vaulted from archival footnote to the earliest known human in North America. News of the new date ricocheted through Paleo-Indian circles. For 50 years, Clovis first had ruled textbooks. Humans trekked south from Beringia around 13,000 BP, brandishing fluted points. Yet here lay a man thousands of years older, hundreds of miles from that corridor, with no Clovis toolkit in sight. Scholars redrew maps. Some traced kelp highway canoe routes down the Pacific. Others proposed earlier pulses across Beringia, and a few revived transatlantic notions. Physical anthropologists re-examined early skulls, noting long, narrow crania, unlike most modern tribes, stirring talk of vanished lineages. Funding surged for coastal digs in Chile and ice shelf cores in Alaska, all chasing footprints older than Spirit Cave. The once tidy migration narrative fractured into a tapestry of overlapping journeys. But the sensation quickly collided with sovereignty. Spirit Cave sits on federal land, so the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, legally held the bones. Yet the surrounding valleys have been home to the Fallon Paiute Shoshone people since, as their elders say, time immemorial. Within weeks of the new date, the tribe filed a repatriation petition under the 1990 Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, NAGPRE, demanding the mummy's immediate return and forbidding further sampling. Curators froze, researchers bristled. To them, the bundle was a Rosetta Stone. To the tribe, he was a grandfather whose resting place had been plundered. Lawyers launched a 2-decade tug-of-war. The BLM convened expert panels. Tribal members staged prayer runs to the museum. Anthropologists countered that cranial measurements looked non-native, undermining cultural affiliation. Newspapers cast the drama as science versus spirituality. Yet the clash was really over who gets to write history on another man's bones. Congressional hearings soon cited the case as a test of NAGPRE's teeth, and grant committees grew wary of funding any project deemed insensitive. Behind closed doors, both sides nudged toward compromise, but each fresh headline touting pre-Indian skulls hardened positions. Meanwhile, sealed in darkness, the Spirit Caveman himself waited for someone, scientist or descendant, to decide whether he would be studied, reburied, or both. After years of locked doors and court filings, a sliver of compromise arrived in 2015. Tribal elders invited evolutionary geneticist Eske Willerslev to a sweat lodge meeting and, after prayers, granted permission for one last sample, a rice grain slice of cranial bone. In Copenhagen, technicians coaxed a full genome from the powder. The data left no wiggle room. Spirit Caveman clustered firmly with today's Native Americans, and closest of all to the Fallon Paiute Shoshone. With science and sovereignty suddenly aligned, the BLM issued a repatriation order in 2016, and 2 summers later, the ancestor was laid to rest in a private duneside ceremony. Like Europe's Otzi, the Spirit Caveman became a time capsule in human skin, but his ripple spread farther. He didn't just tweak a chapter of prehistory. He shoved the opening date of Native America back, forcing textbooks to add millennia and nuance. His tule wrappings revealed a weaving tradition millennia older than any other in the Basin, suggesting complex technologies bloomed early and perhaps vanished unrecorded. The genome work proved that modern tribes are direct heirs to these ancient innovators, ending decades of speculation about mysterious earlier peoples and grounding ancestral claims in molecular bedrock. The find also rewired field ethics. No serious North American project now proceeds without tribal consultation, and co-authored papers are becoming the norm. Meanwhile, the hunt intensifies for older sites. Submerged kelp forest camps along the Pacific Shelf, dry caves in Baja, mastodon butchery layers in Florida, each spurred by the knowledge that a man once slept in Nevada 10,000 years before we imagined anyone could. Spirit Cave's silent occupant has spoken volumes. His burial proves that skilled, settled societies thrived along Lake Lahontan 10 millennia ago. His genome binds today's tribes to that deep past. His courtroom odyssey shows that science advances fastest when respect walks beside it. The mummy's rediscovery shattered the neat Clovis first timeline, sparked fresh migration theories, and rewrote field protocols to center indigenous voices. Yet he also leaves us with an invitation. If one forgotten bundle could upend a continent's history, imagine what other stories still lie wrapped in the dust. Appreciate you joining this journey from desert cave to DNA lab. If this story sparked your curiosity, drop a comment below and subscribe.